Previously on Maplestory the novel, Sacred Tears.
But I will act on it rather than wallow in my tears. But I have seen you do nothing but escort the wealthy and royalty!
I don't know how to repair this injury.
Someone is taking this guy's life force!
And I failed them!
Whoever has the power to drain a life force is powerful. Going on your own would be a fool's errand.
And now, the continuation of Chapter 12, Part 3. It seemed like only a few days, as Dane was escorted around the temple by Ariel, showing him things no mortal should ever know. Despite this, questions about Ariel's motives still lingered in the back of his mind. Was she simply using him? Old wounds began to resurface as well, especially surrounding Minodora. Had she orchestrated her death, then claimed ignorance or complacence to win him over? She had professed numerous times that he was not just a tool to her, that he was so much more, but it did little to calm his doubts.
Miso for your thoughts?
Ariel gently pressed as they overlooked the temple's main gate. Dane said nothing, turning away while breathing long and slow.
Do you still not believe that I could never use you as a tool?
Again, Dane said nothing. With a heavy sigh, Ariel walked to face him.
What can I say that will convince you?
Dane looked up to her under his brow, his eyes brimming.
How much of my life was part of this plan? Was the disaster of Margata part of it? To break me down and build me back up into what you needed me to be?
Ariel stumbled back.
Is that truly what you think? That I would be so vile as to casually play with your life as such?
You're the goddess of time. You tell me.
Dane sneered, light humming on the end of his staff while streams of haze began to peer around him. The haze of Dane's darkness couldn't fully form in her temple, but if it could become visible, it was exceedingly powerful. Grabbing the end of his staff, she put it to her chest where she could feel the searing warmth of the light on her skin.
If that is what you believe, then empty your rage and sorrow onto me.
The light became brighter, beginning to hum with a lower, gritty sound.
My powers can hardly harm a goddess.
Dane snapped, shoving the staff forward and knocking Ariel off balance. Ariel kept her grip on the weapon, not letting Dane tear it away as she took the silver crown from her head, holding it away from her. Within moments, her crimson hair faded to gold and her eyes shifted to blue. Within a few more moments, her wings disappeared from her back, and the pressing presence she once had faded away.
But it could kill a mortal. If you truly believe that I am that sort of goddess, I won't stop you from striking me down and freeing yourself of this plan.
She whispered, her voice hitching as she dropped the crown and waited. Dane tightened his grip, the light flaring brighter every second, beginning to turn the skin on her arm and chest a bright red. But Ariel's firm gaze kept him from releasing the spell. Dane tore the staff away from her grip, hurling the spell into a nearby column and breaking it in half, the shockwave echoing through the temple. After a while of silence, Dane felt Ariel's arms wrap around him, but it was much, much weaker. A slight breeze drifted through the hall, allowing Dane to catch a whiff of what he guessed to be perfume, the scent of roses and lavender. It was so familiar, almost as if...
I'm sorry I led you to believe your life was reduced to a mere tool, but you must know, I love you too much for that to be the case.
She whispered, pulling her arms tighter around him. Dane could say nothing, pulling from her embrace, reaching for her crown and setting it upon her head. After a few moments, her hair, eyes, and wings returned to normal, as did her daunting presence.
I need time, Ariel. I think it would be for the best if I return to the Aurora while I process what you have told me. I need time, Ariel. I think it would be for the best if I return to the Aurora while I process what you have told me.
Ariel sighed as her sunburnt skin healed.
I must warn you, time flows differently here in the temple. You may return to Euphoria and find it much different than when you left. Or you could arrive moments after you stepped through my gate on Heim's tree.
The news shook Dane. It was something he never considered after coming here. For all the Aurora knew, he had abandoned them right when they could have needed him the most.
If I leave through the gate again, will it take me back to Heim's tree?
Dane asked, half disheartened by the long trek that awaited him if it did.
It can, but from this side, it can take you anywhere you please. Simply think of where, and you will appear there.
Ariel said with a muted smile, escorting him back to the gate while loosely holding his hand. As he stepped through, she held out her hand to ensure their fingers touched for as long as possible. As Dane walked through, he thought of the cottage, but instead stepped out on the grass in front of the Aurora Chapel. Young people walked around the grounds, sat against trees reading or practiced magics with their shining rods.
How long have I been away?
He wondered, walking up to the door where a young woman dressed in azure armor stopped him.
I'm sorry, but only members of the Aurora are allowed to enter. If you have come to be a part of us or have a request, I can summon a cleric.
The woman explained. Dane was about to reply when Orchid and Lotus ran to him, hugging him tightly.
Dane! I thought you'd never come back!
Orchid exclaimed.
I didn't miss you. I just didn't want to listen to Mars or Viren anymore.
Lotus said, trying to hide his happiness when Viren jogged up to him. Stand down, Eleanor. This is Master Dane, our leader. The color in Eleanor's face drained, kneeling to one knee instantly.
Forgive my rudeness, Master Dane. I was not aware. I am Eleanor, former paladin of Lionheart Castle.
There is no need to be on edge, Dame Eleanor.
Dane smiled.
What made you leave Lionheart? I understand that you are some of the most well-trained guards for the Rogonian gravesites.
Eleanor stood, seeming to relax a little.
I stood watch at the inner court for King Lionheart. The guards of the grave are far more disciplined than I could ever be.
She turned her gaze down and fidgeted.
I was expelled from my knighthood due to poor judgment of an emissary from the Emperor of Ariel,
she mumbled. Dane smiled knowingly, putting a hand on her shoulder and reassuring her that her presence was welcome. It's good to have you finally return, Master. Things have changed since you were last here, Viren said as he escorted him through the halls of the chapel.
I could see that. He even begun expanding the ranks of the Aurora quite quickly.
Dane exclaimed, looking around at everything that was spread out before him.
How long have I been gone?
Don't you know? It's been nearly 3 months. We were all beginning to think you had abandoned us.
Dane blinked and breathed a long sigh of disbelief. 3 months? Had it really been so long? It only felt like a few days to him.
I am sorry that I was away for so long. Where's Mars? And what of James and Pharamund?
Viren's face fell as he steeled himself to tell the news.
James and Pharamund were attacked by a group of mercenaries in Orentia, of which one came here to Aurora and is currently being held. Our brothers died within hours. Mars found their life forces were being drained and sought out where they were being taken. That was over 6 days ago, and we haven't heard from him since.
Dane's face fell at the news, becoming stern.
Did he say where he was going?
He went chasing after their life forces.
Orchid said nonchalantly.
And none of you went with him?
Dane asked sternly, making both of the twins back away from him.
Why? Mars can take care of himself.
Lotus stated with a scoff.
Mars may be powerful in his own right, but anything capable of taking the life force would be more than he could handle on his own.
Dane scolded when Orchid put a fist to her hip, wobbling her head as she spoke.
Well, duh. But Marcy insisted on going alone. Besides, he was getting annoying.
She jeered, flipping one of her long pigtails. Dane growled in his throat, walking through the chapel with broad steps as the air became heavy around him.
Master?
Called Viren, following Dane.
You mentioned that you are holding a man involved with the attack, correct?
Yes, Master, we are. We've tried questioning him, but all our attempts have devolved into violence.
Then why did you not return him to Arntia? Have you at least given him food and water?
Of course, Master. I decided to keep him here for a while longer to help heal his wounds. He is a man fueled by grieving rage. We've managed to calm him and hear his grief, his darkness. He still has outbursts of rage, however,
Viren explained. Dane narrowed his eyes.
I would like to speak with him. Where is he? Magics like this are not usually known to the common people.
He is staying in one of our unused rooms at the moment. Who or what would have the power to do something like this to our brothers?
Viren asked, keeping his voice low so none of the acolytes would hear as they neared the room.
Only one person comes to mind. She lives in the buried city of Aswan. She is a dangerous woman, capable of anything to achieve her goal.
And whom would that be?
Hilda.